emodels.co.uk. Make something awesome.
Right, I think that's probably got it. I'll be with you in a minute. Oh, right, hi, welcome back. This is part 2 of the Hasegawa Zaxis135 excavator build. In this episode we're going to be looking at building the crew cab. That's all the bits over here. Yeah, the crew cab, if it was a tank it'd be the fighting compartment, but yeah, this time it's the crew cab. Pretty easy, as we saw last time. I cut the seat off. That was the first bit we built for the whole model. The rest of it, I've cut them all off the sprues. Nothing really remarkable about that. Just make sure that you cut the right bits off and you don't lose any. What I tend to do, as you can see here, I've cut the parts off the sprues. I've just marked them all with a little cross just to make sure I've got all the right bits. It looks quite complicated on the plan, on the instructions, because there's lots of numbers as well, and these numbers here are all the paint call-outs that correspond to the list in here. So it does look a little bit confusing, and then the little stars and such, they're telling us that there's decals and such to go on, and the decals are actually numbered as well, so there's lots of numbers. You really need to take care when you cutting things off the sprues and getting the right ones. Part that I did I think worthy of note was this little bit. If you can see it, it's just this little sort of control handle here. When you cut it off, I thought the little nub on the bottom of it, try and keep it in focus, the little nub on the bottom of it was actually went to fit in there, but it doesn't. This I think represents a cup holder, so that the driver can put his coaster or whatever he's got in a little cup holder. But this actually, if you see on the plan, it gives you a little instruction that it actually sits just in the bottom. So that confused me for a little while. Can we zoom in? Let's try on this phone without wobbling. No, it's not letting me zoom in. Oh, there it goes. There. So it just sits in the bottom, just in there. That's all. That's just worthy of mention. Another part was this as well. This is part of the door assembly for the left hand side. It's part J4. I thought it was alright. I cut it off. There's a few injection marks just on the back, which I didn't think would be of any significance. However, looking at the plan, I'll just drop that bit. Looking at the instructions, there are some decals to go down the edge down here, so all those pot marks need to be filled in. I just used some squadron putty just to fill them in, but any type of filler will do. Even some sprue glue would do that. Just fill them in, and then I'll leave that probably overnight, then file it down just before we get on to spray painting. That's the next stage we're going to go to. I've cut everything off, made sure I've got all the parts. I'll zoom out a little bit. Oop, wrong way. Make sure I've got all the parts together, ticking them off on the instructions, and then I can spray all these in one go. What I'm going to do, I'll give them a coat of UMP primer, the black one, and then that'll sort of bring all the colours together, and then we can go on and paint in the colour call outs as as suggested. Right, I'll go over and get on with that, and the next scene we'll get to another bit. All right. Welcome back to the bench. Right, I've changed the mat as well to see things, because there's a little bit of black and things going to go on in the parts. It might be a little bit better on a grey background. We'll try this anyway. Right, since I've been away and sprayed the parts and took a little bit of time off because of Christmas and things like that, what has happened in the next town, or a town that I passed through on the way to work, there's been a new building site opened up, and I've noticed that on that site they're actually using Hitachi excavators. I don't think there's a 135 on there, but certainly they're the same type of excavator, just a little bit bigger. I think the 135 actually refers to the size of it, and US, I still don't know whether that's American or whether it's a UK thing. However, what I did notice was that the plant machinery, the Hitachi plant machinery, where it's here in German grey, or given the call out for a German grey type colour, I've noticed, or the plant appears to be black. Whether that's change in the colours from Hitachi, or just because they're pretty new looking machines. This plant hire, the digger owner has his staff certainly looking after them. They do look fairly new. There's not a lot of damage or weathering on them, otherwise I've been over and taken lots and lots of photographs. It seems that the bucket takes most of the weather, but what I'm going to do, as I've already sprayed this lot in black, I think it's going to be difficult to see any, if we carry on and do weathering, I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get washes and things right, because it's never easy to put washes and streaks and grime onto black. So we'll stick with the German grey call out. It looks a little bit better as well. It does, yeah, it give it the impression that it's a little bit weather faded as well, a little bit of an older machine. So we'll do that. We'll stick to the German grey. This lot has all been sprayed. Some of the interior, there's the interior we looked at before. It's all been sprayed black now, ready to go. And also what usually happens is when I come to do some spraying, I usually have lots of paint left in the colour cup, so I've carried on and sprayed some of the orange parts as well. Yes, you're right, yeah, I've sprayed on the sprue, but that's not a big deal. It's only a primer coat. We're just getting everything ready. We'll soon snip them off, and once it's assembled we can give it all a colour. What I've done with this, why I've sprayed it black, why I've sprayed the orange parts black, is because when I come to put the orange coat on, I don't want it to glare. I don't want it to be bright, a bright orange. I want it to be a darker orange. I think that's going to make it a little bit easier, once again, to do some weathering. That the orange will be subtle enough. If you wanted your orange to pop, yeah, what you could do, give it a white undercoat, or even a yellow one, yeah, a yellow primer. Well, that if you're doing orange vehicles, yeah, or a yellow primer will make your vehicles pop, your paintwork pop. Right, so we'll go on and we'll get these back to the spray bench and get some colour on them. All right. Okay, here we are. We've done the German grey. There hasn't been much to see, because it's really been black on black, really. Well, German grey on black. So it doesn't come out too well on the video, but you can, hopefully you can make out that it has changed the colour ever so slightly. And we can now go on to the next stage. We can start and sort of detail some of the colours in the cab and move on from there. Alright, let's go get that done. I'll clear up now, give this a clean out with some proper airbrush thinners and move on. Right. Alright, as we come back to the bench, what we'll do here is the inside of the cab. It says light aircraft grey. Now I've had a look around my paint. There's the compressor kicking in. Yeah, there's a compressor kicking in. I had a look around my paint stock. I can't quite find any light aircraft grey. What I do have, I have light grey from MIG, so I'll use that one. Remember, it's the colour call outs. Don't have a stick with them. It's your model. Do it. I think this will look right anyway. So we'll start with the lighter colours first, because I'm trying to be clever here, and what I'll do is, rather than having a clean out of the airbrush for each colour, do the lighter colours first. If it stays in focus, yeah, I'll do the lighter colours first, and then go on to the darker ones. Now, one thing about, if you do use MIG, making all this noisy, if you do use the MIG paints, they're a little bit different to ordinary acrylics. Is you need a dust coat first, a light dust coat, and then build the layers up. I see a lot of messages and a lot of complaints that MIG paints tend to orange peel. They don't. It's just a different way of using them. Just build it up slowly. Don't blat it all on. See, I've got a little bit too heavy on that one, and it started to orange peel a bit. There's nothing wrong with the moulding. There's no oil on the moulding. There's no grease from my hands on the paint or anything like that. It's just the way that this paint works. You can just let it dry and go over it again, and it'll be alright. So there's a little happy accident just to show you how to use MIG paints. See this one here, it's looking alright. Just a nice dust coat. Well, we can, there's the compressor kicking in again. Sorry about this, but yeah, that's what we'll do. Anyway, I'll turn the sound off a little bit, just so that the compressor doesn't keep kicking in and disturbing us, and we'll get on and do all the colour coats on this cab. Yeah. Right, whilst the rest of the parts of the cab are drying, I thought we'd get on and have a look at the driver's seat. This is it. I've sprayed it in blue. The colour call outs call for this blue, which is 65 and a 30 in the Mr. Hobby colours, which is bright blue and a flat base. I don't have either of them, so I've had a look through my box of paints, and the nearest I've come up to was a Prussian blue. I've lightened it up a little bit with a drop of white, and it's reasonably the same sort of colour, maybe a shade or two out. but yeah, it'll do. It's good enough. By the time we've done some weathering on this, if we keep it in shot, by the time I've done some weathering on this, made it a little bit grubby, put a couple of washes on it, and nobody's going to know any different. And well, that's what we're going to do now. What I thought we'd do first is we'd show this excavator as being around on the sites for a while, so it's going to get a little bit worn. People jumping in and out, the driver sort of scuffing the seats and things like that. So what I thought we'd do first is try and do a little bit of exposed foam on the inside. Now everybody will know that these type of seats are made with that dense yellow foam. So I've had a look through the box again, and another Vallejo colour has turned up, sand yellow. Yep, this will do. You probably know that this sort of paint, this sort of foam, discolours as it gets UV light on it. It'll discolour as well and go darker. But there's quite a colour for what we need to begin with. You can actually go as far as putting some colour on this and then turn it into an orange type colour. So what we'll do, we'll just pick up some of these edges. There we are. Try to keep this in shot and do it for you at the same time. Well, you can see my paint palette as it is. Yep, got loads of these. Once again, got loads of them. So if you have regular medication on the soul, know somebody, these make excellent paint palettes. There we go. Just pick up some of that, and looking at where most of the wear will occur will be on the front edge. It would come in sort of one continuous split with a few threads just holding it together. Don't be too fussed about it. What's in the cab, it's not going to be seen that much anyway. So a bit around here, and maybe not so much on the headrest. If you ever seen headrests in cabs and things like that, it's usually the edges of the seats that take the battering, because that's where belts and keys on belts will take the toll on the fabric. Just on the edge, I wouldn't go in and do anything on the inside of the seat. It's just all in the edges, so keep it there. So that's the first stage. I'll just let this go off. I'm not going to do too much. If you look at the cab itself, let's go back to it. Let's go back to the diagram. If you look at the cab itself, the door's over here. So this left hand side of the seat, as we look at it, if we were sitting on it, this left hand side of the seat is going to take more of the wear and tear. So try to keep that in focus for you. Try to get it back. There we go. A little bit more just in there, and we'll leave that for now and come back and do the next stage in a minute. Right, the next stage is the chair. We'll let it all dry. Probably what we'll do in the end, I'll give it the infamous gunk wash. But in the meantime, what we're going to do is try and pick out some of these shadows in here. To do that, we'll use a little bit of oil paint. It's just bleeding out here on a piece of card. We'll have some odorless thinners as well. A flattish brush just for blending, and obviously a brush for applying. An old rag just for sort of wiping excess odorless thinners off. All we're going to do is just pick out the highlights in the chair. Sorry, the low lights. So yeah, what we're doing is the shadows. So just pick them out. No rush, no need to be accurate. And if you actually look, you can see down here there's sort of formation of the cushions in the chair itself. So that's what we're trying to pick up and then blend them into the colour of the chair. Keep it in. Then using our flat brush, some thinners, take the excess off on the cloth, and then just drag and blend. You keep repeating this until you get it right. You can always put more on. The thinners will just take it back off. I'd say in here underneath the headrest, we're just taking the excess off just to leave enough in the crevices to give it a bit of shadow and a bit of definition. And that's about as simple as it is. You can work away at it. Don't worry about it going across the foam that you've done earlier. You can always take it off with a bit of thinners. But even in that short time, we can see it's getting a bit of definition now. We'll just keep working on that until it's done, and then let it all dry off, and we'll give it a good wash just to mat it all down. Alright, I'll carry on with this, and in the meantime I'll go back and have a look at some of the other paint work on the rest of the cab. The crew cab, painting and detailing of such. You saw before how we applied the undercoat, the primer coat, and then went on for the base coats and things like that and painted it. Not a lot else to do other than just following the colour call out or painting it in your own desired colours and paint types. After I've coloured it, I've gone and give it a coat of clear varnish. In my case I've just used Pledge Clear. It's a brilliant utilitarian type varnish. I don't want anything too fancy because all we're using it for is just to seat the decals down, and that's what we're going to look at, because you can see on this piece here, which is the bulkhead next to the driver, sits in there like that. You can see that some of these decals, if we get the light right and the pointy stick, you can see that some of the decals are really tiny, and there's a technique for applying those. It makes things a little bit easier. I'm sure that most of you, like me, will be floating your decals in a bath of water, and sure, yeah, that's still what I do, particularly for some of the larger decals or some of the larger ones. That this technique doesn't really work as well, but I think this way is a little bit easier and a little bit sort of less fuss, and saves you chasing them around in the bath of water as they float off and escape. Now what you're going to need is 2 pots, a pot of microset and a pot of microsol, and you can see that I've numbered this one number 2 because this one goes on second. What we're going to use first is the microset. We don't really need this one for this model because we don't really have the decal to conform to shapes and things like that. Well, not at the moment anyway, so we'll just leave that one to one side. So we'll get the decal, and as you can see, it's tiny. That's how big it is, and that is going to sit on here like that, on there. Now I've left it on this little clip just to make things a little bit easier. Hopefully we can do it so that we can, I'll try and position this so we can see what's going on and then try and get it in without making a mess of it. Right, what we're going to do, right, we take a brush, find the right brush. I can never find things. I've got it on the desk. I can't find it. Where's it gone? Oh, there it is. Right, brush. Now then, these bottles are prone to being knocked over. You can buy little stands to put them in, things like that. I haven't got one yet. Right, what we need to do is take the decal and pure and simple, just apply microset to the back of it. That's all the secret is. Oh, try not to drop it. You can apply it to the front as well. And just let it soak. And eventually the decal will release and float off and be able to be fixed in place. What I do with this as well, I often just put the piece on the surface where the decal's going to go, and that just gives you a little bit more time just to position it. Now then, I've got that the wrong way around, so let's turn it round, and then with the aid of another pair of pliers, we've just got to wait now until it releases, just gently touching it, start to go. You can see it down here. So this technique is not mine. I learned it from somebody else. In fact, I learned it from Tony. Tony over at Hasegawa, and he'd said he'd found it from somewhere. So there we go. Just a bit of repositioning. Try not to mess with them too much. Try and get them in the general position. It's just a matter of putting them into place, and then a final rub over and a smooth out with a Q-tip or a cotton bud, depending on where you're from. This has got a little bit of a kink in it. There. There we go. That's it. That's the secret to applying small decals. Yes, you can still use the wet bath system if you want to do that, but as I say, to save you sort of chasing them around the bath with a pair of tweezers and they all falling up, everything like that, I do find this is a lot easier. Now then, there's another tiny one just to go in here. It goes on there somewhere like that. So right, I'll go get that done, get it all together, and we can look at doing some washes and things in the cab. Alright. Right, there we are. Decals are all done, and the first part of the crew cab is assembled. What I've done, I've then protected the decals with, as I say, some clear varnish, just ready for some weathering inside. Apart from the decals on here, there is a few of them to do. As I say, they are quite small, so just take your time with them. I've also done the windows as well. The decals are a little bit bigger. You saw them before on the decal sheet. These are a little bit fiddly. You really do need to take your time to do them, because they are sort of open in the middle. There is a little bit of carry film around the outside. I don't know if you can quite see on this. There's a little bit of decal carry film around the outside, which I think sort of detracts from the quality of the decal really. Now whether it's going to be sort of visible in the finished model, I don't know. Can you quite see it? If I catch the light, see it just in there. Yeah, I've also seen on the web, on the tubes, somebody who's used food colouring to give a little bit of a tint to the windows as well. You can do that if you want. I had considered it, but I decided not to in the end, because seeing the actual real thing, they don't seem to have window tints on the actual vehicle itself. This one, this decal is actually applied to the outside of the window. Why it's done that way, I don't know, but obviously there's going to be a windscreen wiper to go in there and such. So what we're going to do now, before we put it all together, is do a little bit of weathering on the inside of this crew cab. Now what I'm going to use for this, as well as some, maybe I'll use some Starship filth. I'll be using some an enamel wash. This is from the civil vehicles pack from MIG. This is actually the US model vehicles. Now normally I would put some latex gloves on, but I haven't got any. My fingers are a little bit cleaner than they were right at the start, but I've finished the workshop now, so I can start and clean things up. So what we're going to do with this, use a fairly large brush. If I can keep hold of it, use a fairly large brush to put it on, and then some tissue and some cotton buds to help us wipe it off. And the first stage is give this a really good shake. If it's been lying around for a bit, it's going to all settle in the bottom, so you do need to give it a good shake, which we've already done. Now we'll try not to make too much mess out of this, and fill the brush. Try not to knock the bottle over. We'll just put it out of shot so it doesn't get knocked over. And then you could try it first, try it on the underneath, just to get the idea of where it's going to go, because what this does, it's like pigments in an enamel carrier. So what it's going to do, it's going to deposit pigments, and then the carrier is going to flash off and dry off and leave like a dusty effect. So what we can do, we can give the whole thing a bit of a going over. I'll try and get it into what it'll do as well. The thicker sections will settle into all the crevices and give it that sort of dirty look. Give it a run all over, sort of trying to keep in a little bit heavier in some of the recesses. This is quite a good colour. You can make your own. I've also got some pigments. I've got some concrete pigments and some wood, which I may have a little go at. I might splash some of that around, might slap it on, some of that around. But your clear coat protection will protect the paint. See how it's already giving it that look, but we're not going to keep it like that, because we'll just give it a few minutes, then we'll wipe some of it off. Especially around some of these ridges around the control levers. It's a good way of just letting everything flow in and give it some 3D effect. Really makes the detail pop this time. So right, we'll just let that flash off a little bit, and then we'll come back and we'll clean it all up. Okay, and as you come back, the carrier has sort of evaporated, just leaving the pigments really. So it's now a matter of just cleaning it up and leaving all the deposits in the recess, and the filter, the wash itself just leaves a grimy type look to the surface itself. It's up to you how much you put on, how much you want to leave, how much you want to take off, and have a look. Try and think of the areas where the dust will lie, where it would get rubbed off, because you would think that somebody sitting in the seat, the dust's going to rub off around the central sort of areas and like that, but we'll leave it on the sides and see how the ripped type, worn type edges are now sort of all blending in. Just moving it around. Now, as this is going to be enclosed, I'm not going to bother giving it a dull coat to keep it all on, because it's not going to be handled, it's not going to be moved about, it's not going to be worn off with handling, so we'll just leave it. Normally, yeah, if you're doing this on the outside of your vehicle or your model, yeah, you could dull coat it. That will protect your work. So there we are. If you've got some little crevices you want to get in, just a small rough brush to get in. Right, now what I've got here, I've got some I have some big pigments. This is the concrete. I thought suitable. I've got some in the drawer, so why not use it? Easy to apply, just slap it on. Once again, just rub it into the corners. You don't need to take too much to get a good effect. Then what you could do, just take some pigment fixer. I also find that some enamel thinners as well works good with this. Just take some pigment fixer and then just drop it on. And what this will do, it'll fix, as the name suggests, it'll fix the pigments. And while it's still wet, you can also apply some more. And the pigment fixer will make it stick as such. If you can see just in the bottom here how it gets a little bit more lumpy, sort of gives some texture to it. It is a bit messy. Some just in there. or I can blow it off. There we go. Just another drop, another drop pigment fixer just to fix it in. See how it's running down here. We just lift that back up, and there we go. We can see how the oil, the enamel wash has sort of stuck itself in the crevices of the seat, and along with the pigments that have all been stuck in the corners. And for about what's that? Less than a minute or two's work, and we're already looking pretty good in there. So what we're going to do now, I've got all the bits for the digger cab, the crew cab. I can go in now and put them all together for you, and then we'll come back and we should hopefully see the cab in its finished condition. We're not going to bother about weathering the outside of the cab just at the moment, but this will be the first section done. That's right. Let's go and get the rest of that done, and we'll come back and see it just on the wind up. Okay. And that is the cab built. I'm not over enamoured with it, especially these decals around the windows. I'm still not happy with those. Well, I suppose we could probably hide them with a little bit of weathering and things like that. I've still got the windscreen wipers to go on, and I think there's a little radio aerial to go on the back that's missing just yet, so I've got to cut them off the sprues, fire them, cut them off the sprues, and glue them on. The glass went in, the whole thing went together really easily. There's nothing much to comment on about that. The windows went in using some of Deluxe materials from E-Models, glue and glaze. I've not used it before, but as you can see, it does seem to have put the windows in without any fogging. It's a white bonding type glue, probably similar to PVA, something like that, but it does seem to work as well. And it will glue most plastics without a fogging. But that's about all there is for this section. That's the crew cab built. So the next thing, we'll move on to do the digger arm and some of the body work. We'll try and do it in a few stages and a few videos, because we've got other builds coming up to do as well. But yeah, I think once we get a little bit of weathering on the outside of it, it'll tone it down a little bit and make it a little bit more yeah, you know what I mean. Anyway, that's it. Digger built, well, the cab's built anyway. There it is, and we'll see you for the next video coming up soon, I hope. Bye.